Hi everyone. So in this video, we're going to be talking about how to structure your MLA, your works cited page in MLA format. As I mentioned on Monday, I was going to add some information here. I didn't have it up on Blackboard on Monday. I meant to get it up yesterday, but it's up today. So if you go into the assignments for this week, for October 25th through the 29th, and click on the reading section, you will see all these things here, right? One of the things you're going to see is the sample essays that we talked about in class on Monday. So I have that entire packet that I handed out to you. That's going to be available there. But then I also have this works cited page format link. I'd showed that in class as well, but now you can access that. We're going to go over that again in this video. And then you've got a link to the Purdue Online Writing Lab. And Online Writing Lab, we shorten that to OWL. That's going to show you how to do some citations. So I'm going to go through these two things here so that you'll understand more clearly how to go about formatting your works cited page. So if you click on this MLA works cited page format link here, you will get this document. And again, we talked about this in class today. Today on Monday. What this is the shows what your works cited page generally is supposed to look like. You can see that the title here, where it says works cited page, that is just 1 inch below the page number, so you don't hit return a bunch of times or anything. It comes right at the top there. It actually has to say works cited page. So we've got that. It needs to have your last name and page number, just like any other page of your document. As we also talked about on Monday, your entries for your works cited page, see how they're backwards from what a regular paragraph looks like, right? So in a regular paragraph, we indent the first line, right? And in a works cited entry, we indent all the other lines. Okay, I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Sorry, I don't know why that shrunk down sometimes on my laptop. It does some strange things like that. Try and bring it back up. So in general, that's what it's supposed to look like. Notice that no extra space here between where it says works cited and the actual works cited entry. Each entry is going to have this indent. There's no extra space between the entries. Some of you, because I hadn't shown you how to do this, some of you were putting spaces between those two to show us that we're moving between them. But again, the appropriate format is to do this, okay? And that's basically what you need to know in terms of what your works cited page looks like. Realize that it is a works cited page, so it's got its own page. Even if there's space at the bottom of your previous page to put it, it always goes on its own page. So that's basic formatting things that you need to know about this. How do we actually put the entries in here, right? How do we get the information here? Realize that the information that we put in this, it exists to help us track down the source. It's so that we can find specifically what source you were talking about. So if somebody wants to know some more about this, they know that they can find the source wherever whatever source you used. And so we need some basic information in order to be able to do that. And the way that we do that, if you click on the Purdue OWL link that I gave you, you'll come to this. You'll come to this. This, if I can navigate through, it talks about how to appropriately how to appropriately cite things in your works cited page. Get rid of this thing. Sorry, it's got these little video ads and things in here. I don't want to have those in there, but that's what we got. And so what it says is there are certain kinds of information we need in order to be able to track down a source, okay? And this link, this page that I gave you for the Purdue OWL lists what they are and the order that they need to come in. And so what we have here, 1 through 9, This is the information that you need and the order that we need to have it in. And so just keep that in mind, because all of the, if it comes in this order, and then when you go to make your actual works cited page, you go through and just put these elements in the order. So the first thing you need to know is the author. Who wrote this thing? Okay. And so that's one of the first things that we use to be able to track somebody down. And when we do that, we use the author's last name first and then their first name. Last name, comma, first name, and then we put a period. So we use the author's name. We have the title of the source, which is the book or the article. So let's say we were talking about our book for this class on looking. We would say Horowitz, comma, Alexandra, period, on looking, right? We would have that. And the title of the source. And then this is what's called title of container. Now, in a book, we don't have that. A container is where we find this source. So if it's a book is just, in by itself, right? A book is a book. But if we're going to be talking about an article that we might have found on the internet, it is going to be on a website, right? So there's one article that's maybe on a website somewhere, right? And so the container is that website where it is that we found it. Sometimes a container might be a book. If we have one essay coming from a larger book, we're going to say, look, this is the title of the essay, and the container is the book that it came from. Okay, so it could the container could be a website, it could be a book. If we're talking about things like music, and as I'll show you as we go through this page here, a container might be the album that it's going to come from. If we're going to be talking about a TV episode, the container would be the entire TV series that we have. And so it's just the larger thing that we have there. And notice that that helps us find what we're looking for. If you're saying, look, here's this article, and you don't tell me where it came from, what container it came in, what website it came from, what magazine it came from, anything like that, if you aren't telling us that, then it's going to be really difficult to track down. Okay, so those are probably the first three things, that most important things we need: the author, the title of the source, the name of the article, book, whatever it is that we have there, the container, what we will find that thing in, if there is a container. Again, if you're citing an entire book, there's not a container for that. If you're citing an entire movie, there's not a container for that. But if there is a container, if there is some bigger thing that thing exists in, then you tell us what that is. Then you tell us if you have other contributors, other people who have helped write this, people who edited it. If there's anybody else's name associated with that, we have that. That may not be the case, right? If one person wrote an article, we may not have other contributors, okay? So, if we have Alexandra Horowitz's book on looking, we have the author, the title of the source. We don't have a container because we're just citing the entire book. We don't have other contributors because she just wrote it, right? So some of these things might not exist. And so if they don't exist, don't panic. That's not a problem. You don't have to put something there. It's just that if they exist, you need to put them there. Okay. Next is version, right? So what's going to happen is if we have, excuse me, if we have an article potentially, we might write one version of that, and then it might get updated later on. Okay, and so we need to know that. Sometimes books, excuse me, sometimes books get updated later on. And so we can say, look, this is a version we did one year. We thought about some things, made some changes, and we have a new edition, and that's a new version. Again, not all things have new versions. They might be the exact same book that's, we publish it once and then it stays the same. So not all things have versions. But if there is, that's what you would put. That's what you would put at number 6. Number has to do with the number of that version. Again, it's an even more detailed thing about that about the version, saying this is number 6 of the series or something like that. That's mostly not something that you'll have to worry about. Then we say the publisher, right? Who it is that put this thing out, right? What company published this thing? And so if you have a book like Alexandra Horowitz's book, we can look in the front and we can say, okay, this is the company that actually paid to have this printed. And so you find out who did that. If you've got something on the internet, there is a company that puts that thing out, right? There's a company that runs that internet source. Sometimes it's not a company, sometimes it's a government agency, sometimes it's a university, but it's some group that's going to say, look, we decide to put this thing out there. Okay, and so again, you might find something on a government website, and you can tell us what that government website is, but it is actually published by the government, right? So it's a publication of, let's say, the city of New York or something like that. So we need to know who that is. We need to know the publication date, when that thing is actually came out, when the book was printed, when the article on the internet was actually published, and oftentimes there will be a date there somewhere telling us where that happened, and then the location. Which is going to have to do with things like that's where you might put the actual URL for something. If it's a book, you're going to put the page number for something, and so the location tells us maybe more where exactly to find that, right? And again, that's where you might put your URL. So those are all the things that you need in here. So let's just go through and look at some examples. And again, you've got this link here, and so you can click this thing here. You've got this link here, so you can go through and do that. So the author, notice that we've got the author's name, Baba Homi, the location of culture. That's the name, the title of the actual work there. There's no container because it's a book. This is who published it, and that was the date, and that's it, right? So notice that there are 9 items on the list, but you don't always have to have 9 items here, right? These were the only things that we needed to have there, right? So that was who the author was, the title of the source, right? This is called the Hummingbird House. It's the second thing. This is called How to Make Vegetarian Chili. And you can see with that source there, how to make, if we don't have anything afterwards, that's, don't have a container, this is just a book, right? But here we have How to Make Vegetarian Chili. That's not a book. It can't. The container that we have there is now eHow. That's where that came from, and we can find, and that's where we'll be able to find that. And then we've got the URL there. Again, 9 items in that list. There aren't 9 items here because there weren't all of those things. There wasn't a version number, there wasn't a number, there wasn't all these kinds of things, right? So you didn't have to use that. You only need to go through and insert those things if they exist. If they don't exist, you can forget about them. Um, um, so again, we've got something that came out of a magazine or a newspaper. Here's the article, and here's where it came from. This is the entire article there, and then it came from the Tulsa Studies study in women's literature, right? This is where we get the volume, the version, the number. Again, number is very rare for you guys. You probably don't have to worry about it. The year that it was published, and then the actual page numbers, right? Because that came from something that's actually printed. Okay, and so again, see how it's following along with that. Even a song, Beyonce, right, is who is the author. "Pray You Catch Me" is going to be the title of the work. "Lemonade" is the album that it came from, right? The larger collected work. This is who published it. This is the year, and this is where you can actually find it, the URL. Again, there were 9 items in the list. We didn't have all the items. There's no version and no other authors, nothing like that. And so we're able to cite that as well. Okay, so you just kind of need to, again, follow these general principles of that, right? We've got the highlighting the title of the container, right? The Vintage Book of Contemporary American Short Stories, right? That's the container there. This is who edited it. This is the extra contributor, right? So the story was Jamaica Kincaid's Girl, right? This is where we found it. This is the extra person who helped out with it. This is who published it. This is the date, and these are the pages, right? So that has a lot more of the information, but again, it doesn't have a version number or anything like that because we didn't have all those. So see how I can go through and you look at this, and you can see how this does all of those things, right? Container might be a website, right? And so we have that, and we can list the URL there. But again, just go along in that format there. So hopefully that gives you a clear sense about what you're supposed to do here. Just follow along with that. This is not something, again, that I expect you to do perfectly, but I want you to begin experimenting with this and realize this becomes important because again, you want to leave a trail so that other people can follow along behind you. So other people can say, "Look, where did you get this information? How can I find that information myself?" This is, important for me sometimes, not just to make sure that you guys are using